Hey, and welcome to Political Spectrum. Glad to have you join us today as we continue to steady our eyes on issues bordering on the Nigerian political terrain. We hope it will be exciting and engaging as we look through some of the developments in our polity. Take a walk with me. Take a walk with me. My name is Onwese Ehinoma Olusegun, and we are broadcasting live from Uyo, the state's capital. Let us begin as we take our first report from the national wing of the APC. Although we've been following the developments at the National Working Committee. Now, after the confirmation of the resignation of the national chairman of the APC, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, by Deputy National Organizing Secretary of the party, Nze Duru, it was also confirmed that Iyola Omishore, the National Secretary, has also resigned. Deputy National Chairman, not of the All Progressives Congress APC, Abubakar Kyari, takes over the leadership of the party in an acting basis following their resignation, as the party's constitution clearly provides the transition process for its leadership. Now, Mr. Kyari announced the resignation of Mr. Adamu on Monday after a meeting of the National Working Committee at the party's headquarters in Abuja. The acting chairman, also a former senator, while briefing journalists after the National Working Committee meeting, said he was taken over based on the provisions of the constitution of the APC. With this development, and according to the APC constitution, it is now incumbent on my humble self as the deputy chairman North to assume the office as the acting national chairman of the APC. And subsequently also the deputy national secretary, Festus Fuanta, will now assume the office of acting national secretary in the place of the national secretary, he said. He further announced at the meeting that the national secretary, Iyola Omishore, also resigned, has been replaced by the deputy national secretary, Festus Fuanta, from Plateau State. Mr. Kyari also announced the postponement of the National Executive Council, earlier scheduled for the 19th July. He said, with the recent developments with the change of leadership, we would like to inform everybody here that the proposed National Caucus meeting stated for 18th July 2023 and the National Executive Council for 19th July 2023 are hereby postponed. This postponement will not be indefinitely, but a new date will be communicated as soon as possible. Mr. Kyari did not give the reasons for the resignation of Mr. Adamu, but said it was a voluntary resignation. However, Mrs. Adamu and Omishore faced allegations of mismanagement of funds. Salihu Mustafa, Vice Chairman Northwest, had accused the duo of mismanagement of funds. Their resignation may have been spurred by the manner in which they handled the contentious audit report of the party's account, refusal to render party accounts for 1 year, lack of transparency, violation of the party's constitution, and running a one-man show without the contribution of the National Working Committee. All these were responsible for their downfall. Now, speaking on the condition of anonymity, a National Working Committee member stated, the first straw that broke the camel's back was the manner they, that's Adamu and Omishore, contracted the audit account to an external auditor without the consent of the NWC or the NEC. When the audit was completed, rather than extend it to members of the committee for scrutiny, Adamu and Omishore both signed and forwarded it to INEC. That aroused suspicion and further made the National Working Committee to inform President Bola Tinubu and the APC governors of an imminent implosion in the tensions is not doused on time. Now, Mr. Adamu, 77, was the fourth national chairman of the APC since the party's formation in 2013. He was a senator representing Nasarawa West before his emergence on the consensus as the national chairman of the ruling party in March of 2022. He also served as the Nasarawa state governor between 1999 and 2007 on the platform of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, and Minister of State for Works during the military administration of Sani Abacha. On his part, Mr. Omishore is a former deputy governor of Osun State on the ticket of the Alliance for Democracy AD and senator representing Osun East on the platform of the PDP. Some of the NWC members who were present at the meeting included Mr. Kyari, National Organizing Secretary, as at then, Suleiman Argungu, Mr. Duru, that is the leader for people living with disabilities, Tolu Bankole, Deputy National Chairman, South, Ima Eneuku, National Vice Chairman, Northeast, Saliu Mustafa, National Vice Chairman, Northwest, Saliu Lukman. Now, away from the political party APC and hoping to come to it later during our discussion, we move to the new development at the House of Representatives, also known as the Green Chamber. Now, it is no longer news that reps screen service chiefs and they seek space force to track terrorists from the orbit. Now, the House of Representatives has called for the establishment of a Defense Space Force, that's DSF, to tackle the barrage of insecurity ravaging the country. Babajimi Benson, Chairman Ad Hoc Committee on the Screening of Service Chief Nominees, made the call during the screening of the service chiefs in Abuja on Monday. Those screened are Christopher Musa, a Major General who was confirmed as the Chief of Defense Staff, Taurid Lagbaja, a Major General who was confirmed as the Chief of Army Staff, Emmanuel Ogala, a Rear Admiral who has been confirmed as the Chief of Naval Staff, and Hassan Abubakar, an Air Vice Marshal, as the Chief of Air Staff. Recall that President Tinubu had appointed them on the 19th of June. However, they've since assumed their duties, making the screening and confirmation just a mere formality. Mr. Benson said Nigeria must tap into and harness the potentials of having a defense space force like in the United States of America. He, however, acknowledged the immense contributions of the Defense Space Administration, DSA, adding that there was a need for a full-fledged DSF. This, according to him, is to adequately handle potential threats from cyber, adding that the country acknowledged the robust achievements. He said it was proof of the level of professionalism often displayed by the military in discharging their duties while calling for effective collaboration with sister security agencies. This, he said, will ensure. Now, he said, and I quote, "Dear nominees, securing the lives and properties of Nigerians is a collective task for all arms of government. As a parliament, we are required to legislate for the good and peaceful governance of the country. This is a responsibility that the 10th House of Assembly is keen quest to ensure that Nigerian lives are lived." He further urged the nominees to cooperate with the National Assembly while performing their constitutional duties of ensuring. And away from the National Assembly, we move to the happenings in Enugu State, where Governor Peter Mba seems to be markets and other places. Now, in an effort to ensure total implementation of the sit-at-home ban, now the governor who sat at the Spar Mall, Robban Stores at Bisala Road, Market Square, ShopRite, Zenith Bank at Ogui Road, Celebrities, Ogbete Market, Gariki Akwana Market, Mayor Market, Abakpa Market, and the State Secretariat commended residents for complying with the sit-at-home ban. However, some business places in the city were still shut on Monday despite government threats. Sit-at-home is the brainchild of the indigenous people of Biafra to demand the release of its detained leader, Nnamdi Kanu. At the Enugu State University Chief Medical Director, Professor Hyacinth Honor, to avoid being sanctioned by government. Now, media sources had gathered that the workers were told by the management of the hospital that any staff who failed to attend work on Monday, hence salary, regardless of whatever they are taking. Now, our correspondent also gathered that the development was introduced after a meeting of various heads of government agencies and parastatals. The governor had in June declared that sit-at-home was banned in the state, saying it was injurious to the economic well-being of the state. As part of measures to enforce the ban, the governor, it was directed that all civil servants must sign attendance register on Mondays. At the state teaching hospital, it was, and that anyone who comes to work after 8:30 a.m. when the register is billed to close will be regarded as absent from work. Media sources. It was guard workers sleep in the hospital on Monday nights, so they will sign the attendance register on Monday morning before 8:30 a.m. deadline. Now, I want to quote one of them. He says, and I quote, "I had to come to the hospital yesterday, which was Sunday. I live at Garrick in Ogbani Road, and the government doesn't provide vehicles on Mondays for workers to come to work. Also, individual transport owners don't bring out their vehicles very early in the morning for fear of being attacked." Another worker who didn't want their name mentioned told our correspondent, meanwhile, schools, especially government-owned secondary schools, opened but did not record full student attendance. The governor during Monday's tour reiterated the threat that the business that continue to shut their doors on Mondays back since the ban on sit-at-home in June. Mbahu took time to interact with business owners, shoppers, traders, as well as civil servants at the state secretariat. Said it should never be heard that we were coward, even faster than the criminals. We are losing over 10 billion every Monday that we sit at home. Enough is enough. This foolishness must end, and it must end now. We cannot be marginalizing ourselves and still complain of marginalization. GDP. We must put it behind us and forge ahead from Enugu to the state of Osun. Or do we say Osun State? As the State House of Assembly recently reversed its name from the state of Osun back to Osun State. State of Osun. Okay, Osun State basically had a lot of activities during the State of Assembly plenary sessions, and they worked on some of the documents that had to do with the name Osun State, that Aregbesola changed from Osun State to State of Osun. And then, as at 2012, the issues had changed. All right, we'll go on a short break. We'll be right back. Join us again.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if you're product investment and so much more. Advertise on of 12733 Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Welcome back, and many thanks for staying tuned. This is Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television. All right, going straight to the Osun report. Assembly has reverted the state's name from State of Osun which was introduced in 2012 by the former governor, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola, back to Osun State. Interesting. The State Assembly on Monday, through a bill tagged Osun State Anthem, Crest and Flag Amendment Bill, was passed for third reading at the plenary session. Mr. Adewale Egbedun, the Assembly Speaker, said the bill would be forwarded to the governor for assent. Egbedun said that the new bill, after it was assented to by the governor, by the state governor Ademola Adeleke, would replace the Osun Anthem, Crest and Flag Bill of 2012. Now, the new bill, aside from reverting from the name of the state, also changes the flag and the crest of the state to the Nigerian flag and the Nigerian's coat of arms. The state anthem established by the old bill was, however, sustained by the new bill. Meanwhile, the State Assembly thereafter screened 13 of 25 commissioner nominees who appeared before it, after the report of the ad hoc screening committee was adopted. The chairman and qualified to be commissioners. Oyewusi said the nominees met the requirements of the law and that they should be confirmed in line with the section 192 sub 2 of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999 through with the screening. All right, it's time for us to introduce our guest. And our guest today will be Mr. Jide Ojo. Mr. Jide Ojo is a development consultant and author, columnist for Punch and Public Affairs, and is also a... I know this period you've been very, very busy. So I will not take this for granted, sir, that you found time to join us today. I'll not take it for granted, sir.
Because of national service.
I can imagine, sir. I can imagine. All right, sir. From the APC. Interesting times. Of course, we're about solving problems. But the APC seems to have taken a unique turn. Judging from Adamu may have led this long... You think Adamu may have seen this long coming due to his alleged style of leadership, because the NEC had accused him of never carrying his first constituency, which is the National Executive Council.
Nigeria, through your station in the planet. And you have to expect the unexpected in politics. I'm not sure Abdullah Adamu Bola met Tinubu at the State House, and they were together trying sometime last week, and he denied any rancor. Oh, there is no smoke without fire.
That is true.
According to Daily Trust, someone regarded them as unforced terrors. And some of them. First was that it must support the ambition of Ashwa as the consensus candidate of President Buhari then. Second, the governorship election, Abba Adamu, as national chairman of APC, could not win his political.
Interesting.
This was a man who, until last, was a serving senator of the Federal Republic. He actually resigned after his consensus adoption as the national chairman of Federal and national chairman of the party. If you go with us, polling unit, your ward, your local government, and your state, for the party you claim of APC during the Malabuni committee.
Yeah.
And the reason relation it could be remember that the factions in Kwara alone is more than 3. There is a former in-laws camp and several others. So that again was counted against him. Then last week, he goofed. He goofed when he was going to pray at National Working Committee session, when he said that the governor of Ondo State was extremely incapacitated.
I remember that report.
Are you his doctor to issue a press statement debunking that actually the governor is on his way to recovery? and that is not in any way incapacitated. Because
Agency.
one of the demands of employment is if you are incapacitated to the extent that you cannot perform the duty of your office. But that happened. Then there is also the angle 1999 to be the president. The class of 1999 met with the president. He abandoned his classmates.
Is that a crime? Mr. Jide, is that a crime? Just a slight digression. We saw the videos.
Politically, it is. National chairman of the party, the ruling party, your colleagues are going to visit the president.
But it was just a mere visit.
Some critical.
It was just a mere visit. According to.
Why was he not among them? Even if it's just to show face.
Okay.
You know, these are things that
matter.
You know, my brother.
I agree.
There's what is called. There's what is called verbal and non-verbal communication. I'm not part of you. Even if it's just to, photo ops, he ought to have been there. It's True. Not out of. It wasn't out of the country. It was in Abuja. Why would you not? If Sally Ulukman, that Abdullah Adamu was running a one-man show, he failed to carry his colleagues on the National Working Committee along. And he was accused of gross abuse of office, including mismanagement of funds. Of course, the cable newspaper of yesterday, Naira, which was realized from the sales of expression of interest and nomination forms.
For both presidential and
during
governorship.
The last election.
Yeah,
okay,
the entire election.
That what is left in the coffers of the party is 7 billion, with the National Working Committee appointed an auditor,
an external auditor,
the report of the auditor, and sign off on that report without consultation with the NWC before he sent it off to INEC. So if you have nothing to hide, one, ready, it should have been debated and adopted by the NWC.
Exactly.
In this instance, that was not done. He and Senator Yolo Mishori just signed off and dispatched the report to INEC. And so people are saying, if you have nothing to hide, why did you deny us the privilege of vetting that audit report before you sent it off to INEC? So that's part of what was alleged against him. There are also those who allege that Abdullah Adamu was complacent, was how do I call it? Was complicit in the fact that he did not raise his voice and concern when Godwin Emefiele was doing the Naira redesign, which was going to harm the political fortune of the party at the poll. That he just kept mute. And Emefiele, we know, was a member of the party, APC, was also an aspirant, presidential aspirant. And people felt this man should have spoken out to say, Mr. President and Mr. CBN Governor, this is not the time to embark on this kind of Naira redesign policy.
But
it's
Mr. Jide,
to harm the fortune of
Mr. Jide, interesting line of thought. I like the way you have articulated all those points. But this particular one you are talking about, this one they said he kept mute. He's not in the position to execute or show any kind of power. Are you sure this is not exactly the case of you want to kill a dog, you give it a bad name? I'm talking about this Emefiele's issue. Because it went round then that the national chairman kept mute. What really should he have done? Hello, Mr. GJ, can you hear us? Okay, if you're just tuned in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television, reaching you live from Uyo, the state's capital. We'll go on a short break. Thereafter, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And sorry for that slight technical hitch. I understand that Mr. Jide Ojo is back. Mr. Jide. All right, I was enjoying the the 7 scenes to the Emefiele's Naira redesign issue. And I ask again, Adamu keeping quiet, did he have any powers in the first place? Did he have any powers to influence anything? Is this not a case of, if you want to kill a dog, give it a bad name?
Well, you may think so, but I don't think so. Political parties do not exist to just sponsor candidates and win elections. And you heard what Garba Shehu said when he opened up recently, that the reason why they did not remove fuel subsidy during the tenure of President Buhari was not to make the party to lose 2023 election. So that was an economic policy that was gulping trillions of naira of Nigerian resources. And for 18 months, Buhari, altered the implementation of fuel subsidy. Why would he now endorse a naira redesign policy that made the circulation of even the so-called new naira to be so scarce as to impact negatively on the economy? Shegun, did you know that 14 people lost their lives as a result of protests over the naira redesign policy? Did you know that part of the reason Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu lost Lagos was because of this naira redesign policy? Did you know that part of the reason why APC could not win 25% in FCT was because of this naira redesign? You may say why. I tell you for free that the hardship brought about by that naira redesign policy, in which case people do not have cash, and there was plethora of failed online transactions, really pitted masses of Nigeria against the ruling party and made Nigerians to say, look, if you can inflict this kind of pain on us, we will not vote for you. You can just imagine, APC could not get 25% of votes in the Federal Capital Territory. Now that's a bone of contention before the court.
A serious one.
You get what I'm saying? So if you cast your mind back, even for whatever it's worth, if the national chairman of APC has spoken out and even paid a courtesy visit to the president and the CBN governor and said, look, this naira redesign policy, let's keep it on hold until after the election, and the party's fortune would have been better off. Look at the way the party lost Lagos, lost Nasarawa, lost Plateau, lost which other state did they lose? The parties was already ahead of 2023 election. APC was in control of 24 states. Now, that fortune has dipped as we speak. But I think they are now 2021.
But people would argue that the reason why some of those states you just mentioned were lost was because there was not enough money in circulation to induce voters. Now, I'm not standing up for Emefiele, because in the end, that policy was a failure because it put a lot of hardship on Nigerians. But people will argue that some of those states that were lost gallantly, including Abuja, 25%, were as a result of the fact that there were not enough monies to go around, and that the politicians were complaining then, not because of the hardship, but because they didn't have enough funds to induce voters. How would you react to that, sir?
Did you know that even President Buhari in his official response on the Naira redesign policy in March 2023, said part of the achievement of the Naira redesign policy was that it frustrated vote buying.
True.
And people asked, wait, Shegun, people asked, in 2019, when you, President Buhari, was doing trader money, and your vice president was going from one market to the other to give people 10,000, 2 weeks to election, was that not vote buying? Was that not vote buying? So it was, it's like the ladder you climbed to the top, you want to remove it. How can you, as a political leader who said you will not remove fuel subsidy, and you are ready to cover trillions to keep that policy in place,
to save your own administration?
You don't want your predecessor or your successor to buy vote to be able to win. Who does that? That is political harakiri. And people have asked, if President Buhari were to be on the ballot, will he have done so? Will he have come up with the Naira redesign policy? So you see, this is double face, which made, and you could see the frustration of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu when he went to Ogun State during campaign. He said, "Wọ́n kówó pamọ́, wọ́n kó epo pamọ́, a máa dìbò, a máa wọlé," which translated to the fact that he knew that these policies were orchestrated against his victory.
True.
That they hoarded fuel. Remember, during that electionary period,
there was fuel scarcity.
Was no fuel.
Yeah.
There was fuel scarcity in Federal Capital Territory, where I reside. We were there buying fuel for 350, 400 naira per liter. And that was the week of election. Remember that INEC chairman, Professor Yakub, had to go and meet Emefiele to say that if this election will not be derailed, they need cash.
Try to do something. Exactly.
And Emefiele promised that as much cash as INEC needs will be provided. But if you provide money for INEC, what about the politicians who needed to pay their polling agents? How do you want them to do it? There was a lot of failed transaction online.
True.
As I speak with you, this is July. Some of my friends have not been able to get their money returned to them for what happened during that failed transaction. So I don't want to dwell too much on that, but part of what was counted against Adamu Abdullahi was that he failed to speak out to promote the interest of the party. Like I said, it was politically suicidal for Buhari to tolerate fuel scarcity and Naira scarcity on the eve of election. And I make bold to tell you, my brother, part of the reason APC struggled in that election was because of those two factors. There was no money in circulation.
There was no fuel. There was
high level of fuel scarcity. I had the misfortune of withdrawing an old Naira note of 10,000 Naira from a POS operator in my neck of wood there, with the intention of buying fuel from the black market, only for me to get there and they said they are no longer taking old notes. And I do not have access to new notes.
I recall.
As I speak with you, I don't know of what's happening in Akwa Ibom and Uyo. How much of that new Naira note have you seen in circulation? This was almost 4 months after Supreme Court decision that the old and the new Naira note should coexist till December 31st, 2023. So they failed to print substantial number of currencies
yes,
that will have that tension and make people to, of course, people were already complaining about commodity price increase and all of that. But to now have on top of that, fuel scarcity, Naira scarcity, on the eve of an election, is intolerable. In fact, if Adamu Abdullahi had been somebody with a sense of shame, he ought to have voluntarily resigned that he did not do well in that election.
Well,
But politicians never have the culture of resignation.
true.
Even this one that happened was to give him soft landing.
Exactly.
It was a soft landing that, okay, if you don't want to be sacked at the next meeting that will have taken place tomorrow, just let's have your resignation letter.
That is
So
very
it
good.
was.
I quite see, the line. And from the perspective of the APC, Adamu has committed a lot of offense. But I tell you, sir, that a lot of people outside the APC would argue, just like I had placed in front of you, that it's not everything that Adamu should be blamed for. That is one. Then two, this series and trends of people or high office holders who did not work or who formulated policies against the emergence of Tinubu, it will seem that this very first number of days, even on that first 100 days of Tinubu, it will seem that he is taking back his pound of flesh. A lot of people see like that. The very, very good example is Adamu. Another one was Rashid Bawa. And the very, very first one was CBN Governor Emefiele. Do you think this period, just like a lot of people perceive, do you think that this should be because it's course of action? Because a lot of people can see clearly that the people that are taking the short end of the stick are people who have worked against his emergence. Now he is the president of Nigeria. He's no longer the president of the APC. How would you view this, sir?
Well, it's not as if I would discountenance those who are expressing that opinion that is trying to do some house cleaning. And it is normal and natural in politics. You don't want to keep your enemy very close. In game of politics, there is a lot of intrigues, betrayals, backstabbing, and mischief. So everyone that played one role or the other in frustrating the lifelong ambition of Tinubu, you remember I said this has been a lifelong ambition for him.
Yeah.
So all of them, he wants to bulldoze them out of the way. And that's why you see politics of psychophancy as being the bane of Nigeria. You can speak out your mind because you want favors. And this is the time to dispense favor.
True.
In my column recently, I wrote about suspensions and appointments under Tinubu. It's carrot and sticks. You work for me, you get compensated. That's how
the average politician in our region think.
That's how your former governor in Akwa Ibom became the top citizen of Nigeria because he stepped down for Tinubu
and supported him.
And Godswill Akpabio.
That is true.
People have, that video trended when
Okay, we seem to be having a small glitch there, but we are still having this conversation. We'll take another short break. Thereafter, we'll be right back. Please join us again.
police force, which is the only one allowed by cross them. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, many thanks for staying tuned. If you're just tuning in, it's Political Spectrum on Spectrum Television, reaching you live from Uyo, the state's capital. And we've been dealing with a lot of issues in the Nigerian polity. I have with me Mr. Jide Ojo. Mr. Jide Ojo is a public affairs analyst and a very, very experienced and grounded writer and columnist also. Nice to have you back, sir.
My pleasure.
Yeah. Amongst the reports we looked at, we also went to Enugu State. Recall that in the southeast, there's been 2 governors who have stood their grounds that sit at home, will not work. The reasons are very clear. It is killing their economy, and besides, it's painting their administration in a very, very bad light. The first one is Professor Soludo, but recently is Mr. Peter Mba. In spite of the fact that he has issues in the election petition tribunal, but you would feel that he is not a governor that is only speaking, but also acting. In the reports we read, he's been going round the city, especially the metropolis, to ensure that that sit-at-home ban is adhered to. I want you to, first of all, share the light on what you think about the governor's activities. Do you think he's doing the right thing, or do you think he may have used a different approach?
Well, I think that there is no different approach you could have used beyond just standing to be counted on the side of the people. The economy of the Southeast has gone south.
Yes, it's dwindling.
As a result of this sit-at-home. I happen to be, as a development consultant, when there was peace in the Southeast, we've been there severally for workshop, capacity building initiatives, and all of that, where, of course, we rent hotels, we invite participants, and many of the hospitality business in the Southeast was doing well. But today, it's Akwa Ibom that is reaping that fruit. I was recently in Akwa Ibom for 10 days, building the capacity of state lawmakers across the South and Southeast.
Oh, that's nice. That's how long ago, sir? We may have missed you.
Yeah, very recently. I came back to Abuja on June 28th. I was
that's
there
very recent.
June 18. Yes, June 18 to June 28th.
Okay.
So what was I saying? Did you know that Enugu State lawmakers had to come to Ikotekpene?
Wow. Because of the unrest.
Abia State lawmakers had to drive 6-7 hours to Ikotekpene. Why? Because the organizers of the workshop cannot go to Enugu to have that workshop. So just imagine what the hospitality business in the Southeast have lost arising from this sit-at-home. The last time I was in Enugu, which was like, was it 2021? we went there for capacity building of the Enugu State Independent Electoral Commission. We were to have a 2-day training for them ahead of their last local government elections. And we had to arrive Enugu on Sunday because of the sit at home on Monday. So we said, let's fly to Enugu, use Monday for prep, and then the program on Tuesday and Wednesday. By Monday evening, we started hearing the fact that because Nnamdi Kanu was going to be arraigned on Wednesday of that week, there will be additional 2 days of sit at home scheduled for Wednesday and Thursday. So our participants said they will not be able to come on day 2 of the program. They could only attend on day 1, and that we should compress everything to day 1, to 1 day, something that was planned for 2 days. That's just to give you practical example of the enormity of the loss that is befalling the Southeast. I agree with Governor Peter Mba. 10 billion naira every day, every Monday.
Yeah, according to him.
Is lost. Now, somebody sits in Finland directing that there should be 2 weeks of sit at home because of one individual. That is tantamount to cutting your nose to spite your face. They are even attempting to do sit at home in Lagos. Do they know the implication? Nobody is venturing to come and buy goods in Aba, in Onitsha, in Nnewi again. It's either you take it to them in Abuja
or Lagos,
or your goods will perish. Meanwhile, in time past, when there was peace and tranquility, before the advent of this unknown gunmen phenomenon, people were trooping to Aba to buy goods. They were trooping to Onitsha, Upper Iweka. They call it Upper Iweka. They call it Upper Iweka. Yeah, because I served in Asaba Delta State, so I usually frequent, Onitsha to buy.
Cross the bridge.
And all of that. I cross the bridge, so I know when they say Upper Iweka, that's what they mean.
Okay, sir. Still on that line of thought, sir. Let us focus on the average resident in Enugu as a hypothetical illustration to every other part of the East. Now, government is saying, open your shops, open your businesses, otherwise you will lose it. Recall the recent videos where some people were on red and they were going through, individual shops, people running tricycles, people running transport businesses, and shooting at them. Now, I've checked all the mainstream media, and I did not see where there was a report that there were massive deaths, but there were sustenance of injury. Now, if you were in the middle of government saying you will lose your shop, and the sit-at-home people saying you will lose your life if you do not, obey, how then do you expect the citizens to manage or survive this kind of conundrum, sir?
What needs to be done was what was done in Ebonyi last week. Those who perpetrated that heinous crime that shot at people in Oseke or somewhere in Ebonyi, they have been apprehended, including their herbalist, a male and a female. About 12 of them were apprehended by the security agencies. If the state can do what is called sting operation and round off these miscreants when they go on their purported enforcement, you will find out that people will start having confidence to open for business. The reason why people are scared is that they believe the state cannot protect them. And
that's right.
How many are the people doing enforcement? There are just a handful of individuals who are armed. Maybe they go, I saw a trending video that the fear of Sienna is the beginning of wisdom.
But they were armed. They were carrying guns, sir.
Yes, they were armed. They carry guns, but they were apprehended, at least for the Ebonyi one. I knew they were apprehended. And since that apprehension, since they were able to apprehend them, I think that has also instilled fear in the enforcers.
But that is just one case out of many. We've seen all sorts of videos, especially on social media, of people being laid down and being shot. Some very gory pictures. And you know, Ebonyi has even been peaceful. It's recently that Ebonyi erupted. Now, in the position of a resident that is caught in between those two, how do you think such a person would even survive it in the first place? You lose your job or your business, or you lose your life.
And that's why we look at it from the economic point of view. That's why many people are relocating out of Southeast, including the Southeast indigenes. They are now trooping to Abuja, trooping to Lagos, trooping to Port Harcourt. Those are the indigenes. They are relocating their businesses out of the state. So, and that is it. Look at school children being forced to be at home on a day they should be in class studying. So the climate of fear that has pervaded the Southeast has done more harm than good. But let me be sincere with you. What can actually mitigate this climate of fear and demystify this unknown government phenomenon is the political release of Nnamdi Kanu. I believe it can be done, and it should be done. Recall, my brother, that this was done for Gani Adams, who was the leader of OPC, Odua People's Congress.
A faction.
After he was arrested, a faction, yes, a faction of...
Because then there was Frederick Fashe who went before he died.
He's our Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò now.
Yes, he's the Generalissimo.
He's our Generalissimo now.
Very, very correct.
So, but you remember that there was a time he was arrested like Nnamdi Kanu.
True.
And the Yoruba leaders pleaded for leniency and got him released. It was a political settlement. And I think that's what the Southeastern leaders are also advocating. Last week, Governor Opunzodinma and the leaders of thought in Southeast met in Abuja and promised to visit the President Tinubu to seek for a political solution to that impasse. I believe that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will have learned his lessons. I believe that his release will actually put an end to the issue of sit at home, even though it may not put an end to the unknown government phenomenon.
That is true.
Because there are those who are using the unknown government to perpetrate fraud, to perpetrate crime, kidnapping for ransom and all of that. But once Nnamdi Kanu is released, you can deal decisively with those other elements. So I join in advocating for the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, at least to mitigate the suffering of the ordinary citizens of Southeast, who may not be able to relocate as those other people who have means have done, going to Port Harcourt, coming to Akwa Ibom, coming to Cross River, coming to Delta, coming to Edo. So what is sauce for the goose is sauce for the gander. Remember also, the release of Kole Sambu Dasuki was politically done.
Arranged, yeah, true.
After several years of incarceration without success in convicting him. So you can also have similar, even Sunday Igboho, who was haunted. You remember Sunday Igboho, who was a Yoruba legislator.
Yes.
Even when he was arrested in foreign country, in Cotonou, some leaders of thought of Yoruba extraction pleaded for leniency for him. And he was left off the hook. It was a political solution to mitigate.
So do you see Tinubu towing that line now and listening to the southeastern leaders, because the plea had long begun. I could even remember there was one local chief in Lagos that represents Ndigbo. He said something about, was it IPOB or Biafra, and was also incarcerated. Now that we see that the leaders are coming together, Hope Uzodinma and the others, do you see Tinubu releasing this person? Especially when the courts have clearly stated that he should be left alone and taken away from the custody of the DSS. What do you think, sir?
I believe it's not beyond a political solution. And President Tinubu being somebody who is politically sagacious, who may eventually be persuaded to lash on to this to show up his credibility among the Southeasterners. We know they didn't vote for him, but he could endear himself to the Southeasterners by releasing Nnamdi Kanu after he might have extracted commitment from him that he will be of good behavior and will no longer foment trouble against the Nigerian state. I believe that this is an issue for political solution, because at the end of the day, what they did do that Gani Adams did not do, what they did do that Sunday Igboho did not do, what they did do that Kole Sambo Dasuki did not do. So we cannot.
But remember, El Zakzaki is still in. He's still in jail.
No. They've released El Zakzaki. The only thing that was done was that they didn't release his traveling document to him. After the Kaduna State High Court freed him through the intervention of Femi Falana SAN, he was discharged and acquitted of all the allegations. But the state has refused to grant him
his document, his
traveling document.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is that yes, I'm not saying Mazi Nnamdi Kanu did not commit some of those offenses, particularly that of incitement of Igbos against other ethnic groups and the state. But you know, sometimes you taba forward to Bomo, we have to see Famora. That's a Yoruba.
That is true.
When you beat a child with the right hand, you endear him with the left.
With the left.
You know, he possibly will have learned his lesson. And if the leaders of thought, in fact, Professor Chukwuma Soludo said he will stand shorty for Nnamdi Kanu, that it should be released unto him. He will ensure that after it is released, there will not be any problem.
But so remember Eyinaya Abaribe also stood shorty for him. And he almost got into trouble.
Yeah,
because after he exited that first time.
He did that for a political reason. You know, he did that for a political reason. But this time around, there is political economic reasons for peace to be restored to the Southeast. And true. I feel that this is one critical juncture that we need to be dispassionate. I abhor crime and I do not support criminality. But like I make in that proverb, if you beat a child with the right hand, you also cuddle him with the left. He possibly have learned his lessons, and if the leaders of thought of Igbo extraction can give assurance to President Tinubu that they will ensure that he will be of good behavior, and he signed on to that commitment, I believe that he could be released under political consideration. After all, so many political prisoners. So many political prisoners who have done similar things in the past.
That's correct.
Even under military, the first thing they do when new administration come on stream is to grant them state pardon as a sign of goodwill, stretching the olive branch.
True. But I don't want to preempt you, sir. I don't want to preempt you, sir. But do you think, you just said it now that Eyinaya Abaribe standing shorty for him then was for political reasons, but this one is for political and economic reasons. That is the one that Professor Soludo wants to be involved in. Do you think that this thing will deter Nnamdi Kanu, especially in that case of inciting people? After that, we'll come to Simon Ekpa. You know, because Simon Ekpa's own seems to be a little bit more brutal because of social media and a lot of other things that, you know, weren't so popular then. But do you think, sir, as we begin to gradually wrap up, do you think that Mazi Nnamdi Kanu will learn his lesson and he will stop the rhetorics and inciting of others and leading them sometimes to their death or to their injury and further dividing the Southeast nations, sir? What do you think, sir?
I can only hazard a guess that having been incarcerated for like 4 years now,
yeah,
he will have learned his lessons. And, you know, as they say, you are OYO, you are on your own. He has tasted deprivation, restriction of his movement, and
True.
he knows that he cannot successfully fight the state, no matter
no
how
single person
popular
can.
you are.
I agree with you.
You know, so and that's why I said his release should be conditional. You know, even though it's a political state settlement. I mean, I recall that there was once upon a time in the Southwest that the fear of OPC is the beginning of wisdom.
True, I remember.
OPC, you know, was dreaded, just like unknown government. They were dreaded because of charms, because of, you know, powers, fetish powers that they possess. But ultimately, political solution was found. And today, the same Gani Adams that was alleged to be fomenting trouble in the Southeast, wanting the, you know, the independence of Oodua Republic, is now the Generalissimo, our Ààrẹ Ọ̀nà Kakanfò.
That
So
is correct.
he has been rehabilitated. And who knows? Look at someone like Asari Dokubo. Look at all those militants in the Niger Delta.
Yes.
When they went to taste DSS cell for some 2-3 years, some of them start behaving themselves. They have their brain reset, and they started even becoming better citizens thereafter.
Than the average normal
that,
citizen. I agree with
that's
you.
on a lighter note.
I agree with you.
But now, Mazi Kanu will possibly, if the leaders of thought met with him, the leaders of Igbo meet with him, and is able to extract commitment that he will not wage war against the Nigerian state, and that he will drop his separatist agitation, and they can stand shorty for him. It's different from when one individual is standing shorty for you. If a whole leaders of thought of a region is saying, on your behalf, we are ready to pledge and make commitment that there will be peace. Because without peace, there will be no development.
True.
Look at all the entire, I've given you the scenario of what is being lost in the Southeast, even my own personal experience. I've given you that, how much more those who are doing businesses, people who invested billions in hospitality business, even Igbos are no longer willing to come home for Ibanku, for, you know, all
New Yam festivals and all the other activities, yes.
Christmas and all of those things that they usually cherish and wanting to go. Many of them now are coming to Abuja to do their Ibanku, to do their New Yam festival. They are going to Lagos, which means that the inflow, even from diaspora, that should have gone into, you know, the economy of the Southeast, is no longer flowing there. So we need that zone to also thrive economically and politically. And this is time for reconciliation. And when you look at the inauguration speech of Mr. President, he actually said he will be fair to all, and he believes in the spirit of rule of law. So rule of law and, of course, political expediency can be invoked to ensure the release of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu. Like I said, if he's released and we still have these separatist agitators, on what basis would they be clamoring again? And if they insist, remember we have MASOB before IPOB.
I was even coming there.
Did you remember?
Mr. Jide, I was coming there.
Actualization of Biafra.
Yes, I was coming there, Mr. Jide.
Led by Raf
Wazurike. So
yeah,
does it?
So we have that.
Okay. It seems like it's evolving because I remember how Wazurike, emanated all the problems and all that before it settled with government. Then the Mazinam Kanu came up, and this is what we are experiencing. And suddenly, from diaspora now, we have Simon Ekpa, who happens to hail from the east too. Will this do you think this trend may continue? It's good to be optimistic, but it's also good to face the facts and the empirical data on ground. It looks like these leaders come one after the other, which means those people feel that they are not being heard enough. And you know that the buck stops on the table of government, because government is the superstructure upon which every other facet of the nation rests upon. Do you think, first of all, do you think this is a cycle that may not end? Because releasing Kanu also means that Simon Ekpa becomes stronger from wherever he is.
No. Simon Ekpa the rug will be pulled off the feet of Simon Ekpa because he's a coward. He's a coward that is leading a battle virtually. If he's so confident of himself, let him travel to Nigeria and lead.
Kanu also lived virtually, formed Radio Biafra for many years. It's the same pattern. They know where they are learning it from.
but what I'm saying is that if he's so sure of himself,
yes,
he should stop all this
and come to Nigeria.
Social media campaigns and come. But Shagun,
yes,
let me be very sincere with you. Rebellion cannot exist without a feeling that somewhere, in some ways, you are justified. That is said by Albert Camus. The whole rationale behind the separatist agitation of the Southeast has to be looked into.
True.
You cannot be cutting the branches of a tree and think that that tree will not continue to grow. You have to uproot from the root. Uproot. If you uproot, and what does it take to uproot? Sense of belonging, equity, justice, and fairness. See, and I'm not making mouth. I've written a number of opinion articles on Igbo presidency. And I said in one of them, I do support Igbo presidency, but not in the manner that Peter Obi is going about it. Because if Peter Obi contests 200 times in this manner of 2023 election, he will never be president.
How do you think he's going about it, sir? Educate the audience.
Way, yes, when you are playing politics of exclusion, when you are asking the Christians to take their country back, as if the country is a theological state.
With all due respect, sir. With all due respect, sir. Still on that thought. With all due respect. Okay. With all due respect, still on that thought, sir. We've seen a plethora of videos also showing some clergies of the other religion using the pulpit to preach against certain persons in the nation. So it would be unfair, sir, to be very, very frank. I'm a journalist. It would be unfair to blame only Peter Obi. Yes, we agree he did it and it was wrong. But a lot of videos have emanated where certain clergies of the other religion use their pulpit to preach against other people, sir. Or you've never experienced it?
Now, let me tell you this. Peter Obi belongs to the opposition. And to win from the opposition, you need to have a united coalition against the ruling party. If you recall, how did Buhari win in 2015. Buhari went solo in 2003, 2007, 2011.
And
In
lost.
fact, after he contested under APP or AMPP in 2003
APP,
and 2007,
CPC.
he
Yes.
decided to go and form CPC.
True.
And when he formed CPC, it was like a Puritan, just the same way like Peter Obi was running. I'm the saint among sinners. And what was the fortune of CPC? They only had one governor, just like Labour Party had only one governor after 2023. Now, political party is an agglomeration of saints and sinners.
True.
You cannot be castigating and saying that some people are thieves, they are corrupt, you are the only saints among sinners. And you think
that's the usual rhetoric of all politicians
has been corrupt to allow you to access power. Do you get all these things that Asiwaju is doing? Did you ever ask? Did you ever add Asiwaju saying, "I'm going to jail corrupt politicians and all that"? He learned that from Awolowo. He learned that from Awolowo's
Buhari said it multiple times. In fact, there was a time Buhari said he would jail them for close to 100 or 200 years.
But did we say that in 2015? By 2015, he mellowed. He mellowed. Now, this is it. I know our time is almost up.
Yes.
This is it.
You have about 1 minute to wrap up. Thank you, sir.
When I blame Peter Obi the way he was campaigning, I'm towing the line of Professor Chukwuma Soludo's letter to him. You know, he wrote 2 or 3 letters, open letters, about Peter Obi's chances that is very slim. And what I had advocated, my brother, is that the kind of affirmative action that led to the emergence of Yoruba presidency in 1999 should be invoked to allow Igbo to be president. Igbos are holding the short end of the stick. Out of the 6 geopolitical zones, it's only the Southeast that have only 5 states.
True.
And the bulk of the citizens of Southeast are in other states. They are even outside of their own shores. So, numerically speaking, there is no way, even with every Igbo person in Southeast voting for any of their candidates, if they do not get the support of other part of the country, they cannot be president. And Igbo must be ready to allow the rest of the country believe and trust them that if they are trusted with power, they will not abuse it. You know, when after the denial of Abiola his victory in 1993, the Nigerian political elite decided that, look, we need to compensate the Yorubas. They saw merit in the agitation of OPC and NADECO and the rest of the pro-democracy groups. And they said in 1998 that power should shift to the southwest of the country. They didn't say to the south. And that's why, despite the fact that we have 3 political parties at that time, the 3 political parties decided to field 2 Yoruba candidates, Olufalaye and Oluobasanjo.
I'm afraid, sir.
We had a Yoruba
as interesting as this conversation is, Mr. Jide, I'm afraid we have to shut down now. Thank you so much, sir. I appreciate you so much, sir. Mr. Jide Ojo has been with us on the show. He's a development expert and author of many write-ups, and is also a public affairs analyst. Mr. Jide, we appreciate you. On that note, we have to draw the curtain for today's show. It's been exciting. We hope to bring Mr. Jide Ojo back so that he can, always share his wealth of knowledge and experience with us. Thank you so much. We'd like to say that tomorrow will be an exciting edition yet again. Continue to stay tuned to Spectrum Television as the next program will be presented to you. Have a very great day. I remain yours sincerely, Onumese Ehinoma Olusegun. Have a great day.